Hey guys, and welcome back for another video. I'm so excited about this one, and I probably say that a lot, but I'm honestly excited for this video because I will be trying to continue the Bratz Genie Magic legacy with my take on what Bratz Genie Magic 3 could be. It all started about 3 months ago when a seller sent me this picture asking me if I was interested in some miscellaneous Bratz dolls that weren't in the greatest condition, and at first I wasn't going to take it until I noticed this tattoo on the one arm, and I instantly knew that it was Bratz Genie Magic Meygan, and I could see that she had a haircut, but I've always loved the Genie Magic girl, so I decided to take her anyway and see what I can do for her when she arrives. And then when I finally received her, I was so inspired I decided to re-watch the Bratz Genie Magic movie, and to my surprise Meygan is nowhere to be found, so I then re-watched what I consider to be the second movie, which is Bratz Desert Jewels, and again no Meygan. And this was quite strange to me, especially since Meygan was included in the doll line along Sasha, Jade, Yasmin and Cloe, and who I consider as the main character, which is Katia, was only included in the Genie Magic bottle playset, and it's almost like MGA packaged Meygan in Katia's box. And I guess we'll never really know why MGA did this, it will always remain a mystery. But anyway, I saw this as an opportunity to create my own storyline that actually includes Meygan. And since I was going to have to reroute her hair, which was very challenging by the way, I started looking for some red hair that matched hers, but because doll hair is so difficult to find in South Africa, I did the next best thing and got some black weave extensions. So my idea for Bratz Genie Magic 3 is that the girls once again go on an adventure, this time bringing Meygan along for the carpet ride, and while scavenging through a temple, the girls get split up, and this leaves Cloe and Meygan trying to get back to the others when they stumble upon a chamber that houses nothing but a lamp on an altar. And seeing how Meygan wasn't included in any of the other adventures, she naively touches the lamp, awakening Amira the genie, who then possesses Meygan, changing her appearance completely. I decided to name her Amira because according to the internet it's a Moroccan girl name meaning ruler or king, and since she originated a very long time ago, I thought her backstory would be that she was next in line for the throne when her brother had her cast into the lamp so he could become king. And over the years she's been bottled up with all the rage and anger towards her brother, and now that she's free she wants revenge. As you can see, her hair has really gone through it, and I decided to start with the reroute process first since I knew this would take the longest, especially since this is my first time. To do this reroute, I'll be using my scissors, some tweezers, I have this black hair extensions and a hairdryer. I also forgot to mention that her arm is a little broken, but I did take that into consideration when I designed her outfit. And I'm just going to start by cutting her hair as short as I possibly could, but looking back at it now, I really wish I did cut it just a little bit shorter. It would have made it so much easier to remove with the tweezers. And after that, I just go in with my hairdryer and I heat up her head to make it easily removable. Once it's nice and soft, I just press it down onto the neck and then I pull it as quickly as possible, making sure not to break that little neck peg. And then I go in with my tweezers and I start removing all of the hair that's inside. And to be honest, I made so many mistakes during this process, even though I've received so much advice from so many of you out there, but I didn't plan ahead and that was my fault. And I've definitely learned a lot of lessons and even received some battle scars along the way. When all of her hair has been removed, I can go ahead and paint her scalp, and I'm going to mix equal amounts of black acrylic paint with Mod Podge and just repaint her whole scalp. I ended up painting 2 layers before setting her aside to dry, then moved on to the extension pieces. I untangled them, sprayed them with some water, then cut them into little strands. And after I cut my first strand, I thought I'd give it a try just to see if I got the right consistency. And I ended up using this homemade rerouting tool that I've been seeing everywhere on the internet. But I honestly do not recommend this unless you really know how to use it. Maybe I just don't, but this was really difficult. I ended up breaking about 9 needles. and her head kept getting hot, so I kept having to reheat it to get it to go soft so I can get the plug to go through. But I'm going to show you as much footage as I possibly have before I gave up and just did everything off camera. At first I didn't want to use the hot boiled water method as it really messes a lot of water, but I eventually had to give in as it was the only way I could get her head to go soft enough to get those plugs to open up. After about 2 days and many breaks, I could finally move on to the final step, and I took some glue and just poured a generous amount into her head, spreading it around using a Q-tip, and then I pulled her to the side, leaving her to dry. To create the genie lamp, I'll be using this wooden bead, some crafting wire, I have some of this delicate chain, and then also my air dry foam clay to shape it out, and then I'll also be using some acrylic paints and some rhinestones. To get started, I take the wooden bead and I just pull the wire through it and shape out a general shape of how I want the lamp to look. I then take my hot glue gun and glue everything into place. After that, I go in with my air dry foam clay and I start mapping out exactly how I want it and just fill it in as I go. And to be honest, this didn't come out exactly the way I wanted, but it's pretty close. It took about 24 hours for the clay to dry, and I could finally go in with some black acrylic paint and just paint one base coat of black paint all over the lamp. When the base coat had dried, I went in with some silver acrylic paint and that gave it a metal appearance. To finish it all off, I go in and dilute some black paint so that I could add some shadows and scuff marks, and I also ended up adding some chain and some pink rhinestones. And that's the lamp completed. To create her outfit pieces, I'll be using some black cotton fabric, some pleated mesh, I have some normal mesh with black ribbon, I'm also using some grey ribbon with some brown pleather fabric, black beads, and then I also have the snap closures. Now let's get started. First, I'm gonna create a pattern for her cape, and I start by drawing a line on the top of an empty page and then mark out the exact width I want it to be, and then once again in the middle so that I can create a neck hole. I then take a compass and draw a little half circle for me to cut out, and then another bigger half circle for the length. After I've cut the pattern out, I fold it in half so that I can create a hood for the cape. I just put it down on some block pattern paper and I shape out a general shape of a hood, and then I just keep adjusting it until I am satisfied. If you are going to recreate this cape, I do recommend using an actual Bratz for sizing reference. I didn't do this and I really regretted it. After all my pattern pieces have been cut out, I trace them down onto my pleather material, cutting out one general shape of the cape and two of the hood. I then go ahead and sew the two hood pieces together with a straight stitch all along the edge, and I flip that inside out and pin that right sides facing onto the cape, and then I also sew that down. When that's been put together, I go in and put it onto the body to make sure it fits, and then I add some character with my scissors. I kind of want the cape to look like she was in battle right before she was forced into the lamp, and this was what she's been wearing for all these years, so it's been withered away. And I also cut two slits for armholes. I then sealed her armholes with my lighter just to make it a little easier when putting it on and off. I also ended up taking my eyebrow razor and just made some more slits and cuts all along the cape just to give it a little bit more of that battle character. As part of her design, I really wanted her to have a little belt bag, which is kind of the medieval version of the Gucci belt bag, and I can imagine in here she keeps all of her potions and pixie dust, because I really want her to be a very powerful sorceress, and that could be one of the reasons why her brother locked her away, is because he was too scared of her powers. And because everything is kind of related to Katya in every movie, I kind of want her to be a long lost descendant of Katya. When the bag's been sewn and turned inside out, I poke 4 holes through it, and then I take some black ribbon and lace that through as well, tying it into a knot. I also ended up cutting out a thin strip of pleather that I'll use for the actual belt, and I just attached one of these snap-on closures onto it, and I also hot glued that bag onto it, and that is all of the accessories completed. After that, I can finally move on and create the pattern for our top, and I'm going to use this pattern that I created in my Shea Couleé video, which I will be linking in the description. And basically I just trace the bottom of the pattern and then I pull it down slightly so that I can make it a bit shorter, and I trace that about halfway, and then I manipulate the neck part so that I can create a halter neck. I also ended up only doing half of the top so that I can place this on a fold and cut it out perfectly symmetrical. I just kept adjusting it until I was happy. When my pattern is cut out, I take some black cotton fabric and fold it in half, placing the pattern on the fold. I then pin that in place and cut it out. When that's done, I go in with my lighter and I just seal the edges to keep it from fraying. I also ended up cutting out another thin strip which I will be using as a neck piece later. To create the skirt, I'll be using this pattern that I made in my little devil's costume video, which I will be linking in the description as well. And I basically just pin that down onto some cotton fabric and I cut out 1 front piece and 2 back pieces. I then pin that into place, right sides facing, and then I just sew a straight stitch all along the edge, and then I fold that inside out and I sew down the seam. I then take my top piece, my skirt and my neck piece, and I just pin that onto some black mesh and I sew that onto the edges, leaving a gap to turn inside out. After I've sewed that into place, I just go ahead and I trim off all of the excess and then turn it inside out. Now that all of the pieces are turned inside out, I go ahead and pin it down and sew down all of the seams to give us a nice flat surface. I then go ahead and attach the neck piece onto the halter neck, and this will then finally give us the end result of our top, and I can go ahead and add some snap closures on the top and the bottom. To create the arm pieces, which are not only fashionable but functional, I cut out 2 strips like I did for the neck, and I pinned this pleated mesh onto it, doing a straight stitch and pleating it as I go, and then I just pin that onto the arm to get the right length and cut that off. When that's done, I can go ahead and sew up both sides and then attach it onto the top. I wanted the top to have the same worn out effect as the cape, so I took some nail scissors and I just went at it, creating a really cool ragged edging. To finish off her top, I'll be adding these small black glass beads, and this will symbolize her royal past, but I will be sewing these on a little jagged and askew just to symbolize that she really did put up a fight before being cast into the lamp. Moving on to the skirt, I'm going to take this grey ribbon and I'll sew that down in the middle of the skirt on the inside, and I'm going to pull that to the back, and this will serve as an anchor when the skirt is on. To make sure I get the right fit, I put it onto a body and then I just pin that into place and sew it down. When the top half is basically done, I go ahead and finish off the bottom by taking 2 layers of the pleated mesh and I sew that upside down all along the edge, and then I'm just going to fold that open and then sew down the seam. When that's done, I pin the skirt right sides facing and I sew up the skirt from the bottom up, stopping just about 2 centimeters from the top so that I have a little bit of an opening to get her in and out of the skirt. When that's done, I can finally go ahead and add my snap closure. Now that I have the basic shape for the skirt, I can go ahead and modify it to look more like my design. So I take the top layer of the mesh and I cut a big half circle through it. I kind of want to make it look like she's been stepping on her dress while she's been fighting. And then I take the bottom half of the mesh and I cut a smaller half circle out of that to give it kind of a layered effect. And this also gives it the high-low, which will kind of symbolize her genie-like body. Which she doesn't have because she has now possessed Meygan, but this is just more of a symbolization. To decorate the skirt, I'm once again going in with these small black glass beads and I'm just going to trim it all along the edge around the bottom, also skipping a few to just symbolize that battle once again. To make this dress seem a little bit more magical, I'm gonna take some of this black glitter and I just attach that all along the edging of the skirt on the top layer and the bottom layer. I thought this will just give it a little bit more of a magical touch to symbolize that she does still in fact have some of her magic inside of her. And that's the outfit completed. Moving on to the final step, which is her head. I'll be honest, was drying for 2 weeks because I ended up putting too much glue in there. I'm just going to take some hot boiled water and try and flatten down her hair to make it a little bit more manageable. I ended up adding a half a cup of fabric softener just to soften it up, and then I added this elastic band to flatten it all around her head. The next day when her hair was dry, I noticed that her eyebrows were still ginger, so I went in with a barbecue stick and a little bit of brown paint and I just shaped out the already there eyebrow with some darker paint just to make it look a little bit more natural. The final step to her hair is cutting off all of those awkward little ends, and I just spray that with water and cut it off, but I didn't want to cut off too much length because I wanted her hair to be long. I mean, she has been in that bottle forever, and now we can finally put all of the pieces together and see what she looks like. And there it is, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. It was a real challenge, but I learned a lot along the way once again. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like, a follow and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye guys.